The elevator that didn't go up. What if a camera caught your last known moment? But even after watching it 100 times, no one could explain what really happened. The rain fell in fine, silver threads as 21-year-old Liana Zhu stood outside the Crescent Hotel in downtown Los Angeles, a vintage building tucked between towering glass structures. The hotel looked like it had once belonged to a different century, and in many ways, it still did. Liana, a university student from Vancouver, was on a solo trip to explore the American West. She had plans: wander the city, visit libraries, drink overpriced coffee in obscure bookshops, and document it all in her online diary. She called it Letters to the Void, a blog she updated religiously. Her words, a mix of poetry, loneliness, and longing for clarity in an often noisy world. The Crescent Hotel wasn't her first choice, but it was cheap, central, and had decent reviews, except for a few cryptic ones. Felt watched, weird noises at night. Wouldn't stay here alone again. Liana, the practical skeptic, shrugged them off. Ghost stories were for tourists. She checked in on the evening of February 2nd. The receptionist, a middle aged woman with tired eyes, handed her an old fashioned brass key and murmured, Room 412. Liana smiled politely. Thanks. Is the elevator working? The woman nodded. Yes, but it's old. Takes a while. Don't be alarmed. That's elevator footage. 3 days later, Liana was gone. The police released a 2-minute security video from the hotel's elevator. Footage captured just hours before she vanished. What it showed disturbed everyone who watched it. In the grainy black and white clip, Liana enters the elevator. She presses several floor buttons, but the doors don't close. She steps out, peeks down the hallway, then steps back in. Suddenly, she flattens herself against the wall as if hiding from someone. Then she starts waving her arms. Fluid, almost dance like motions. She steps out again, gesturing wildly into the air as if talking to someone invisible. The doors finally close, but by then, she's already gone. That was the last time anyone saw her alive. The search begins. Liana's family, devastated and desperate, flew in from Canada. The LAPD searched the hotel with dogs. No sign. Her luggage remained in her room, along with her wallet and medications. Her blog went silent. Her social media showed nothing new. She had simply disappeared. And as the days passed, the internet exploded with theories. Some thought it was a kidnapping, others believed she was hallucinating. A few whispered about the building's dark past. And then there were those who swore they saw something else in the video: shadows moving where there should be none, a figure reflected in the elevator glass. Theories, yes, but no answers. Behind the walls, the Crescent Hotel had stories. It had been built in 1924 and had once housed Hollywood stars, then war veterans, and later became a low income residence. Over time, it became known for strange incidents: vanishings, deaths, suicides. Locals said the building was cursed. Liana had no idea about this when she booked the room. One maintenance worker, Carl, remembered her. Nice girl, he said in an interview. Polite, kept to herself, but I saw her once on the roof. That was odd. You need a key to get up there. But you didn't give her the key. He hesitated. No, I didn't. What happens next? On the morning of February 19th, nearly 3 weeks after Liana disappeared, guests at the hotel began to complain. The water tastes strange. The pressure is really low. It's coming out black. Maintenance went to check the water tanks on the roof. Inside one of them was Liana. Her body was found floating in the tank, clothes soaked and separate from her. The tank was sealed shut and difficult to access. No ladder, no alarm, and the rooftop door was supposed to be locked. No one had seen her go up. The roof is locked, always has been. That's what the manager of the Crescent Hotel told the police. And yet somehow, Liana Ju's lifeless body ended up in one of the rooftop water tanks, submerged in the very water that guests had been drinking, showering in, and brushing their teeth with for days. The rooftop was supposed to be inaccessible. Only hotel staff had keys to that level. A heavy door led out onto the flat concrete roof, fitted with an alarm that should have triggered if opened. It didn't. There were no signs of forced entry, no broken locks, and no alarm records. Even more bizarre, the water tank where Liana was found had no ladder inside. It stood taller than an average man and was sealed by a heavy lid that required significant effort to open. So, how did a 21-year-old girl with no rooftop access, no tools, and no help end up inside the night watchman's whisper? Carl, the janitor who remembered seeing Liana, wasn't done talking. He came forward again, hesitating, nervous. I didn't say everything before, he confessed. I saw her twice, once on the fourth floor, and then again, real late, maybe 2, 3 in the morning. She was on the stairs climbing. Climbing where? To the roof? But how? There's a service door. Most don't know about it. Leads up from the laundry area. It's supposed to stay locked, but sometimes it jams, doesn't shut all the way. He paused. She looked strange that night, like she was talking to someone, but no one was there. She didn't see me. I didn't want to startle her. The detective asked, why didn't you tell us sooner? Carl dropped his gaze because after that, I never saw her again. Digital footprints. Detectives went through Liana's laptop, recovered from her hotel room. On it, they found a series of journal entries. Some posted publicly on her blog, others saved privately. Her final entry read, I don't feel alone here, and that's not a comfort. Something is watching me. The hallways hum at night. There's no logic to the sounds. They stop when I turn my head. But I keep telling myself it's just the building creaking. Old buildings creak, right? The next sentence had been erased, but through recovery software, they managed to retrieve it. I saw something in the elevator mirror, a face that wasn't mine. Autopsy questions. The official autopsy gave more questions than answers. There were no signs of trauma, no drugs, no alcohol in her system, no signs of assault. Drowning was listed as the cause of death, but that only explained how she died, not how she got there. Her clothes, found floating separately in the tank, showed no rips or signs of violence. But why were they removed? Some suggested disorientation, others mentioned paradoxical undressing, a rare phenomenon in hypothermia. But it was Los Angeles, not a freezing forest. Nothing made complete sense. The online frenzy. Once the elevator footage was released to the public, the internet lost its collective mind. Some viewers claimed to see a shadow moving outside the elevator, just as Liana waved her arms. Others analyzed the video frame by frame, suggesting that it had been tampered with, slowed down in parts, timestamps missing. Was someone covering something up? One Reddit user wrote, the way she acts, it's like she's hiding from someone or something. Another wrote, I swear, in frame 106, you can see a footstep into the hallway, but then it's gone. People speculated wildly. Government experiments, a stalker, mental illness, even supernatural forces. The Crescent Hotel was now the center of global internet obsession. But the one person who could answer the questions was gone, a shadow in the records. Detectives began digging deeper into the building's history. In 1962, a woman had jumped from the roof and landed on a pedestrian below, killing them both. In 1976, a guest was found dead in room 412, the same room Liana had stayed in. Whispers of unsolved crimes echoed through the archives. The hotel had changed names many times over the decades, but the reputation followed it like a shadow. Then came a shocking detail. The building's architectural blueprints revealed a discrepancy. There was a sealed off hallway behind the elevator shaft, one that hadn't been accessed or mentioned in over 40 years. Why? What happens next? Was Liana led to the roof or lured? Was it all a terrible accident or something far stranger? And what was behind that forgotten hallway? The answers were hidden behind locked doors, missing footage, and silence that stretched between walls that had seen too much. But the truth, whatever it was, had left clues. Someone just needed to follow them. Detective Rowan couldn't sleep. Since Liana Ju's body had been found, every piece of the case led deeper into questions that refused to resolve. The footage, the rooftop, the tank, it was as if the hotel itself was playing tricks. Now, this discovery of a hidden hallway behind the elevator shaft pulled the investigation into a new direction. The Crescent Hotel was a maze, its walls older than any of its wiring. Blueprints didn't match renovations. Doors had been sealed and forgotten. Some staircases led to dead ends. Rowan kept hearing the same thing from longtime staff. This place doesn't like being understood. The secret floor. The elevator footage was strange, but Rowan now focused on the elevator itself. One resident, an older man named Hector, who'd lived there since the 1980s, made an odd comment. I remember once, back in 89, the elevator went past the top floor, just kept going. Doors never opened. At first, Rowan dismissed it as a hallucination. But when she reviewed the elevator system logs from the night Liana disappeared, something strange stood out. The logs showed that the elevator attempted to go to floor 15. But there was no floor 15, at least not officially. Room 412's mirror, back in room 412, Liana's room, Rowan noticed something subtle. The mirror on the wall was fogged over, as if someone had recently breathed on it. Odd, considering the room had been sealed for weeks. She wiped the glass. Etched faintly in the corner, nearly invisible unless light hit it just right, were scratch marks. Letters. Help me! Rowan felt her chest tighten. Was this a message from Liana? From someone before her? She knocked on the mirror, listening. A solid wall. She pressed harder. The edges didn't sound the same as the center. The mirror was covering a hollow, the hidden hallway. With a warrant and tools, the maintenance team pried off the mirror. Behind it was brickwork, clumsily sealed, not professionally done. They broke through. A narrow, dark corridor extended behind the wall, filled with stale air and silence. Dust coated everything. It led behind the elevator shaft. At the end of the passage was a locked metal door. Heavy, old. No one had accessed this space in decades. They opened it. Inside was a small room, bare except for a rusted metal chair, chains bolted to the wall, and torn wallpaper. On the floor was an old visitor's badge, cracked and faded. It read, Guest access, 15th floor. The woman in the photograph. Taped to the wall was a photograph, yellowed with age. In it stood a girl, long dark hair, standing in what appeared to be the very same room. Her eyes were wide, fearful. In the corner of the photo, handwritten in ink, 1976, keep her quiet. Rowan's skin crawled. This was no accident. Someone had used this room. And Liana, knowingly or unknowingly, had stumbled too close to something someone wanted forgotten. Liana's final clue. When police examined the metadata of Liana's last digital files, they found a corrupted video, never uploaded, dated the night she vanished. It took hours to recover. What they saw chilled them. Liana, sitting on her bed, whispering to the camera, I can hear footsteps above me at night, but I'm on the top floor. Today I saw a door behind the vending machine. When I came back with my phone, it was gone. I don't think this place is just haunted. I think someone lives here. Someone who never left. She paused, then leaned close to the lens. If I disappear, this place did it. Then the screen went black. The girl before Liana. Digging deeper into the hotel's archives, Rowan discovered the unsolved disappearance of a girl named Maria Santos in 1976, the same year listed on the photo. She had also stayed in room 4, also alone, also vanished without explanation. Police at the time had called it a runaway case, but her file mentioned something else. A janitor had reported hearing screaming from behind the elevator shaft. His report had been ignored until now. What happens next? Had Liana uncovered a secret meant to stay buried? What was Florphine, and why was it wiped from the records? And most importantly, how many others had disappeared before her? It was never supposed to light up. That's what the elevator technician said when Detective Rowan pointed at the 15th floor button. It's a dead switch, just there for symmetry. No wiring behind it, no programming, just a piece of plastic. But on the night Liana Ju vanished, surveillance logs showed that the button had been activated. Not once, but 3 times. 3 separate elevator trips to a floor that officially didn't exist. The button pressed by ghosts. The tech team ran diagnostics. They checked wiring, reviewed software logs, even examined physical triggers. There was no rational explanation. The 15th floor button had somehow sent the elevator somewhere, and that somewhere wasn't on the blueprint. I've worked elevators for 20 years, said Max, the senior technician. Buttons don't just start working unless someone wants them to. It was as if a phantom floor had opened itself up. For her, a second disappearance. As the case spiraled deeper into mystery, news of another incident shook the Crescent Hotel. A guest, a man named Oliver Hyde, was reported missing. He checked in a week after Liana was found, last seen entering the elevator alone. His room was untouched. His phone, wallet, and keys remained on the bedside table. But he was gone, vanished into thin air. Rowan reviewed the elevator footage. It looked normal until she slowed it down. Frame by frame, she caught it, a flicker of static as Oliver reached to press his floor. But his finger hovered, hesitated, then dropped to the 15th button. The elevator door closed. He never came out. Messages in the walls. The investigation turned once more to the hidden corridor behind room 412. A forensic team discovered more scratch marks, lines, letters etched into the drywall as if by fingernails. They translated to still here. 15 never ends. Mirrors are windows. Coded madness or desperate messages from previous victims. One message was clearly newer. Fresh paint, not scratches. Liana tried to warn you. Rowan felt the weight of every word. She wasn't chasing a ghost story. She was chasing a pattern. The architect's notebook. Buried in old city archives, Rowan uncovered something forgotten, a spiral bound notebook from the original hotel architect, dated 1928. Inside were pencil sketches of floor plans and corrections. Eliminate floor 15. Do not build. Void space, unsafe. Seal permanently. And then, scribbled in red, they see through reflections, the mirrors call them. No walls are thick enough. The page was torn where a final note had been violently ripped out. Why had the original architect insisted on removing the 15th floor after construction had already begun? A visitor from nowhere. Then came a chilling twist. One of the hotel guests, a woman named Evelyn Marks, reported something truly disturbing. She said she woke at 3:15 a.m. and saw a girl standing in the corner of her room, wet hair, pale skin, staring blankly. I asked, "Are you okay?" Evelyn said. The girl turned and whispered, "Don't let it take you. Don't press the button." Then a vanished. Hotel security confirmed the room was locked from the inside. No entries, no exits. When Rowan showed Evelyn a photo of Liana, her hands trembled. That's her! Uncovering the elevator's secret, determined to solve it, Rowan ordered the elevator shaft examined top to bottom. Workers rappelled down the dark column. What they found, halfway between floors 14 and the rooftop, shook them all. A side door, a metal trapdoor, cleverly concealed behind the elevator track, leading into a crawl space. Behind it, a narrow hallway, and beyond that, a room full of mirrors, the mirror room. The walls were lined with reflective glass, the floor too. A single bare light bulb dangled from the ceiling. No windows, no exit, just mirrors everywhere, written on the glass in what looked like dried red ink. You only leave when it lets you. Every reflection is a door. She screamed, but the walls swallowed her voice. In the center of the room sat a single chair, and on it, Liana's journal. Her final entry read, "It followed me through the glass. I thought it was a trick of the light. It wasn't. If you're reading this, run." What happens next? Was the 15th floor a mistake or a secret prison? Why did the architect warn about reflections? What if the elevator wasn't malfunctioning, but obeying a design older than logic? And most terrifying of all, what if Liana never truly left? Mirrors remember what walls forget. That phrase echoed in Detective Rowan's mind as she stared at the room of mirrors found behind the elevator shaft, hidden between floors that should not exist. Liana Ju's journal, her final writings, lay open on the chair. If you're reading this, run. But Rowan wasn't ready to run. Not yet. She wanted answers, and they were waiting for her in the glass. Reflections that moved on their own. Forensics set up infrared cameras in the mirror room. Over 3 nights, they recorded dozens of hours of footage. What they captured made seasoned officers request reassignment. In one clip, the reflection of the room showed someone standing behind the camera, tall, thin, unmoving. But in reality, the room was empty. In another, the reflection of the exit door appeared open, even though the actual door remained sealed shut. One clip even showed Liana herself, sitting in the chair, eyes wide, mouth moving, though there was no audio. The timestamp? Exactly 1 year after her death. The same hour, the same minute, a visit from the past. Rowan, haunted and exhausted, reviewed Liana's old blog posts and vlogs. One entry stood out, a video she'd filmed 2 days before disappearing. In it, Liana said, "I read that mirrors can trap energy, even souls. I don't believe in ghosts, but sometimes at night I feel like I'm watching myself sleep from the inside of the mirror. If I disappear, it might be because something pulled me in." At the end of the video, she holds up a mirror to the camera, and for one frame, a single frame, a second face appears beside hers. Not hers, something else. The mirror expert, Rowan reached out to a local historian named Dr. Emil Corbin, a folklore expert who had written about urban legends tied to the Crescent Hotel. He came with a chilling theory. The crescent was built on a fault line, not just geological but energetic. Many old buildings are places where reality is thin. There are stories going back to the 1930s of people disappearing into mirrors here. One maid reportedly screamed about a girl in glass that tried to take her place. They say if you stare long enough, the reflection blinks after you do, the scratch that shouldn't be there. Rowan decided to spend a night in room 412. She removed every mirror except for one, the full length standing glass by the closet. She sat across from it, waiting. The hours crawled by. 3 a.m., the room grew unnaturally cold. She looked into the mirror, and her reflection didn't blink, didn't move, didn't copy her. It just stared, then it smiled. Trapped Rowan leapt back, heart racing. She reached for her camera, but the mirror was empty again, just her. And the room, except her reflection, now had a long scratch across its throat. She did not. She stepped forward, pressed her hand to the glass, and something pushed back from the other side. For a second, just one, it wasn't a mirror anymore, it was a window. And behind it, she saw them. Liana, Oliver Hyde, Maria Santos, all standing, all screaming, all silent. Then it was gone. The concierge's confession. The next morning, a hotel staff member, an elderly concierge named Vernon, came forward. He'd been with the hotel for 40 years, and he finally confessed. We all knew, in the beginning, about the 15th floor. They told us never to speak of it, not to let anyone press that button. People vanished. One maid, two guests. They covered it up, said it was a curse or mold or gas leaks. But it was the mirrors, always the mirrors. Rowan asked him why he never said anything before. Vernon looked at her, terrified, because when you speak about them, they hear you, said the room with no reflection. Rowan returned to the secret mirror room. This time she brought a light spectrum scanner and a backup generator. As she explored, she noticed something odd. In one corner, a mirror had no reflection, just blackness, like looking through a window at a night sky. She leaned in, whispering, Liana? A hand pressed against the other side of the glass, small, trembling, and on the fog surface of the mirror, words formed. One last chance. What happens next? What is the mirror trying to say? Can Liana and the others still be saved? Is the 15th floor a place or a prison? And most important of all, if mirrors are doors, what happens if someone opens them from the other side? Detective Rowan? She froze. It wasn't someone calling her name from behind. It wasn't an echo in the room. It came from the mirror, from her own reflection. But the lips that moved in the glass weren't hers. The voice was not her own. Something was now aware of her. Since she'd entered the mirror room that night, the air had changed. It wasn't just cold anymore, it was watching her. The scratched words from earlier, one last chance, were gone now. In their place, a new sentence shimmered faintly in the fog of her breath. You're next, Rowan. She backed away. The lights flickered. Her scanner went dead. The silence that followed was heavy, like sound itself had been swallowed. The forgotten architect's final letter. Back at the precinct, Rowan dove deeper into the past. There was one envelope buried in the city's architectural archives, unopened for nearly a century. Stamped, Crescent Hotel. Confidential inside was a torn page. A letter dated 1929, written by Elias Warwick, the hotel's original architect. I made a mistake. I let them build on a rift, not of earth, but of memory. The 15th floor exists only when it is wanted or feared. The mirrors aren't decorative, they're containment. We sealed the floor, hid the blueprints, and destroyed the elevator programming. But the room reflects too much. If you stare too long, it remembers you. And if it remembers you, it can become you, the girl who walked out of the mirror. Security called her in the next morning. Footage showed something impossible. At 3:15 a.m. in the hallway outside room 412, the camera caught a figure slowly stepping out of the full-length mirror, not disappearing into it. Coming out, it looked exactly like Liana Zhu, but with one difference. Her eyes were black, not just dark, but completely void of light. She wandered the corridor, paused, smiled at the camera, then turned and vanished from the frame. Room 413's guest never woke up again. Rowan's dream wasn't a dream that night. Rowan dreamed of mirrors, of being trapped inside one. She screamed, but no sound came. Outside the glass, she saw herself sleeping, and standing beside her, Liana, or something wearing Liana's face. When Rowan woke up, she gasped. Her mirror was covered in fog, though the room was warm. Written on the glass was a question: which one of you is real? The man who escaped a break finally came in the form of someone unexpected. A former Crescent guest, Daniel Royce, saw Rowan's public appeal for witnesses. He came forward with a terrifying story. I stayed in room 5 It wasn't even near the haunted floor. But one night, the mirror wouldn't stop reflecting a red hallway. I thought it was a glitch. Then I saw myself, but not quite me. He waved at me, I waved back. He stepped forward, I stepped back, and the reflection kept walking out of the mirror. I ran, haven't slept in front of a mirror since. He showed Rowan the sketch he made of the red hallway. She turned pale. It matched the secret corridor behind room 412. Patterns in the reflections. Rowan began to connect the dots. Every person who vanished had three things in common. 1. They all stayed on the fourth or fifth floor. 2. They all reported odd dreams before disappearing. 3. And they all had mirrors in their rooms facing their beds. Not one case had occurred where the mirror had been removed or covered. The mirrors weren't just doors, they were observers. And observers that remembered could replace a glimpse beyond the glass. Back in the mirror room, Rowan set up a thermal scanner and a mirror with a silver backing. Old school, pre 1980s. She stood in front of it and whispered, "What do you want?" "Nothing." Then the air rippled. Her reflection blinked after her again. Then it spoke. "Let us live." The reflection held up a hand inside the glass pressed to hers. In its palm was a key. The key turned. Somewhere, a door opened. A gust of wind blew through the room. And for the first time since the case began, Rowan heard a sound from the other side. A voice, faint and layered. It was Liana, crying, "What happens next? What's behind the newly unlocked door? Who are the reflections that beg to live? Has Rowan gone too far to ever leave?" And the biggest question yet: if reflections want to live, who do they replace to survive? What if the thing in the mirror is more you than you? That question haunted Rowan. What if the reflections weren't imitations, but copies that waited patiently, waited for you to lose hope, to grow curious, to lean just a little too close, so they could walk out and you could never leave? The mirror door opens. The key in the mirror had turned, and deep inside the hotel's forbidden walls, a panel clicked open. Behind room 412, past the mirror chamber, a corridor revealed itself, made of concrete and metal, colder than the rest of the building. Rowan entered it, flashlight shaking in her grip. Each step echoed like footsteps in two worlds. The hallway ended at a solid iron door. On it, written in deep scratches, "Replacements only." Inside the room, the door creaked open with a groan that felt alive. Inside was a chamber lined wall to wall with mirrors, each standing free, forming a circle. But these were not ordinary mirrors. They pulsed faintly, glowing with a strange bluish light. Rowan stepped closer to one. It showed a reflection, but not of this room. It showed a child's bedroom, another showed a hospital room, another a subway station. Each mirror was a portal, a window to another place, another time. Then Rowan saw her, Liana Zhu, standing in one of the mirrors, eyes wide, lips moving, though no sound escaped. Rowan mouthed, "How do I help you?" Liana pointed to the mirror beside hers. There, Rowan saw herself, asleep, not dreaming, trapped. The test of the mirrors. Suddenly the lights flickered. A voice, cold, distant, and yet inside her own head spoke, "One of you must remain." The mirrors darkened. One lit up. It showed two Rowans. One spoke, calm and clear. "Let me go. I'm the real one." The other cried, trembling, "No, she's lying. I'm real. Please don't leave me here." The test had begun. Which reflection would Rowan trust? She closed her eyes, listened to her heartbeat, then spoke one word: truth. Only one reflection repeated it. That was her. The other vanished into smoke. The story of Oliver Hyde. Suddenly, another mirror flashed. It was Oliver Hyde. The first disappearance. He was older now, aged strangely, like he'd lived years in days. He pressed his hand to the glass, desperate. They feed on memory. They don't want freedom, they want replacement. They take your life like clothes. They wear your face better than you ever did. But they forget one thing: real people change. Reflections only imitate. He screamed as the mirror pulled him backward. And just like that, he was gone. The final mirror. Liana's mirror glowed brighter now. Rowan stepped closer, and she saw it. Her own face, reflected in Liana's eyes, was starting to blur. The longer she stayed, the more the mirror tried to remake her, replace her. She had minutes, maybe seconds. She slammed her hand against the glass, and this time it didn't push back. It let her in. The world behind the glass. Inside the mirror, everything was warped, upside down, cold, silent. Liana was there, frozen in place, eyes red, hands shaking. Rowan grabbed her. The moment their fingers touched, the mirrors around them began to crack. A voice roared across the void. "You cannot take back what belongs to us." But Rowan held firm and whispered, "You never had her. You just wore her." With a shatter that shook the air, Rowan pulled Liana through the mirror and into the real world. But who really returned? They collapsed on the hotel floor, breathing, alive. Hotel staff came running, cameras flashed. The mystery girl was back, and Rowan had saved her. But as the paramedics carried Liana away, she turned her head, looked at Rowan, and smiled. Not a smile of thanks, but a smile of recognition. As if to say, "I'll take it from my what happens next." Is the Liana who returned really the original? Did something follow Rowan out of the mirror? What if Rowan herself is no longer the same? And most terrifying of all, what if no one notices? Until it's too late? If something pretends to be you long enough, does it become you? The question haunted Rowan. She had pulled Liana Ju out of the mirror, or so she thought. But now every movement, every word Liana spoke, it was too perfect, too smooth, too precise, almost like she had rehearsed every second of her life. The surveillance that revealed a lie. Back at the station, Rowan reviewed security footage. The camera outside room 412, the moment she and Liana emerged, played smoothly. But when she zoomed in, something chilled her. Rowan's own reflection in the mirror kept watching after she turned away. She had walked away. Her reflection had not. And then the reflection blinked, smiled, and slowly faded. The doctor's warning, Dr. Everly, a cognitive psychologist who had studied mirror delusion cases, reached out after seeing the broadcast. What you described, reflections acting independently, it matches rare cases of mirror dissociation disorder. But those were hallucinations, temporary and eternal. What you witnessed goes beyond science. In folklore, she added, they called it the echo self, a being that becomes stronger the more attention it gets. The more you see it, the more real it becomes. If you brought something back with you, it won't want to be forgotten. It will want to be remembered and worshipped. Now, smile that wasn't hers. Liana's recovery was rapid, unnaturally so. In less than a week, she walked, talked, even joked like she'd never disappeared. But there were moments. Late at night, her eyes didn't blink for minutes. She never passed by mirrors, she walked around them. And one night, in the reflection of a store window, Rowan saw something impossible. Liana stood beside her, smiling politely. But her reflection, it wasn't smiling at all. It was watching Rowan. Head tilted, waiting, the fire exit incident. A guest from room 407 reported a bizarre event. He'd taken the emergency exit stairs after a fire drill. Halfway down, he saw a woman standing perfectly still, facing the wall. When he passed her, she whispered, "You don't belong." He turned. No one was there. He later described her appearance. It matched Liana Ju, wearing clothes she had never worn in public. Rowan's growing doubts. One night, Rowan stood in her apartment, facing the mirror. She whispered, "What did I bring back?" Her reflection blinked late again, then whispered back, "Not what? Who?" She screamed. The mirror cracked, but her reflection remained untouched. The forgotten footage. A tech analyst dug through corrupted footage from the night Liana vanished. Something had been partially restored. The elevator video. Everyone remembered Liana's strange movements inside, the way she pressed buttons, hid, gestured wildly. But now, for the first time, the audio was clear. She wasn't rambling. She was pleading. "Please, I said yes to you. Let me go now. Please, I didn't know what it meant. I just wanted to disappear. I didn't know I'd be replaced. Please don't wear me." That last sentence hit Rowan like a knife. The room that shouldn't exist. The hotel was sealed. Yet a cleaning crew reported hearing a TV playing inside room 415. But according to blueprints, there is no room 415. The hotel jumps from 414 to 416. Rowan returned. The hallway was silent. She counted 4 doors, 414. Then a crack appeared in the wall between 414 and 416, and behind it, at a door, hidden for decades, painted over. Its number 415, the mirror inside. The room was untouched since the 1930s. Dust, old wallpaper, broken furniture, and a mirror, of course, but this one was different. It didn't reflect her at all. Instead, it showed a corridor lined with mirrors, stretching into darkness. Then, movement, a figure stepped into view. It was Rowan, or something wearing her face. It waved. Rowan stepped back, heart pounding. The figure pointed to its eyes. Then it mouthed the words, "We see you now." What happens next? Is Liana really back? Or is she an echo that has learned to be perfect? Did Rowan leave part of herself behind that night? Is the mirror world truly closed? Or have the reflections found their way through? And the most haunting question, what if every mirror in the world is now watching? What if the person you see in the mirror remembers things you don't? Rowan was no longer sure who she was saving, Liana, herself, or the entire world from something that shouldn't exist. The Mirror Protocol. After the Room 415 discovery, Dr. Everly returned to the hotel with a private research team. They brought instruments, sensors, even psychic mediums, though Rowan didn't believe in all that. What she did believe was this: every person who stared into that mirror in room 14 experienced a memory they didn't recall having. One technician collapsed, muttering, "I remember drowning, but I've never swum in my life." Another cried, "My mother. She didn't die in a hospital. She died in a red room with mirrors. I saw her reflection smile after she passed." The mirror wasn't just showing faces, it was showing versions, lost memories, echoes of choices never made, doors never opened until now. Liana speaks, or does she? Rowan met Liana again, this time alone. No cameras, no doctors, just two chairs and one dim lamp between them. Do you remember the mirror world? Rowan asked. Liana hesitated. No, she whispered. Only darkness. Then your face. But her fingers twitched. A subtle pattern. Rowan remembered those movements. That was mirror sign language. The same gestures Liana made in the elevator before vanishing. So she did remember. She just wasn't allowed to say it. Someone was listening. The whispers return. That night, Rowan heard whispers through her bathroom mirror. Not voices, just breathing, then tapping. She recorded it, played it backward. A single word emerged. Stay. She shattered the glass in fear. And behind the shards, her reflection blinked. Not once, not twice, but three times. A code. The same one used by Liana in the mirror world. The room that grew hotel maintenance filed a bizarre report. Room 412, where the first mirror event occurred, had shifted, literally. Its measurements had grown by 12 inches in width. The walls had pushed outward, displacing plumbing and power lines. That should have been impossible. It was as if the room was expanding, making space for something. The return of the missing reports flooded in. Around the world, people missing for years, decades, were reappearing. No signs of aging. Same clothes, same dates on ID, but their families claimed that's not them. One child whispered to a parent, You blinked, I walked through. Another man stared into a mirror for hours, then vanished again. Every reappearance was tied to a mirror event. The museum exhibit. An old mirror from 1896, displayed in a Boston museum, shattered without warning. Security footage showed nothing. But when the broken pieces were cleaned, one shard had an engraving never documented before. The echo remembers all. Below it, a date February 19th, the day Liana had disappeared. A final warning. Dr. Everly called Rowan in the middle of the night. Panicked. I made contact, she whispered, through a mirrored box used in therapy. I asked who they were. Rowan waited. And, she asked, they responded, We are the version you don't choose. Silence. Then Dr. Everly said something that chilled Rowan to her core. They're not just waiting in mirrors anymore, they're waiting in your mind. Every doubt, every regret, every what if. That's where they live now. The burned footage. Rowan found an old VHS tape left in her apartment mailbox. No label, just a sticky note that read, You never left. She played it, grainy elevator footage, but this time she saw herself, Rowan, in 2013, in the same elevator as Liana. They both looked scared. Rowan screamed in the footage, Take her, not me. Then static. She didn't remember this, but the tape showed what her mind wouldn't. She had been there. She had chosen herself, and the mirror had obeyed. What happens next? Can you truly escape a world that lives in your own reflection? Can guilt, fear, and regret feed a version of you strong enough to take over? And when that version decides to walk through the glass, will anyone notice the difference? You don't become someone else all at once. It begins with the way you blink. That's what Rowan remembered Liana whispering once in her sleep. Now, as Rowan stared into the mirror, her own face blinked, out of sync, a beat too late, and her heart thudded. Was she still herself, or had something begun becoming her? The eye test. A neuro-optic specialist, Dr. Anya Verma, had been analyzing subtle differences in people affected by mirror events. One of her tests involved a simple eye tracking scan. Real people's pupils adjusted under changes in light. But the test subjects, those returned from the mirror, showed no adjustment. Their eyes responded to reflections, not real light, as if they saw not the world, but its reverse. Liana failed the test, but Rowan's scan came back inconclusive. The dream journal. Rowan began keeping a journal of her dreams, but after a week, she noticed something disturbing. Each entry, written in her own handwriting, described places and people she had never dreamed of, dates and times she never remembered writing. One night, she left a message for herself. If you're not me, who are you? In the morning, a reply appeared beneath it in perfect cursive. You said I could stay. The reverse room doctors, Dr. Everly's team, created a fully mirrored test room. Every object had been reversed, books printed backward, clocks ticking counterclockwise, even a faucet that turned left for cold and right for hot. Liana was placed inside. To everyone's shock, she navigated it flawlessly, reading, writing, speaking, as if that was the natural world. But when she exited, she vomited, collapsed, and muttered, I want to go back. This world feels wrong. The forgotten child. A woman from Vancouver contacted Rowan after seeing her televised interview. She had lost her daughter in 2012, disappeared without a trace during hide and seek. Then last week, the girl returned. Same age, same pink hoodie. The mother wept with joy until bedtime. She walked past the girl's room and saw something terrifying. The girl was standing on the ceiling, facing the mirror. Her reflection was sitting on the bed. She never turned around. The hotel reawakens. Though officially closed, the Cecil style hotel was again stirring. A nighttime drone captured lights flickering in room 414, movement, shadows shifting without sources. Even more disturbing, the mirror in that room was missing. Taken, removed, but it kept appearing, reflected in security glass, car mirrors outside, even a puddle on the street, as if the mirror was no longer an object, but a being. The possession theory. A controversial theory emerged online that some reflections were now separate entities and capable of possessing the real versions of us. Not like ghosts, not like demons, but like replacements. They watched long enough to mimic, then stepped in when no one was looking, one user claimed. My brother's reflection lingered 3 seconds longer than he did. Now the real him is quiet, too perfect. He blinks on cue, smiles without reason, doesn't dream. The one who came back isn't him. The rituals that opened the door. Digging deeper, Rowan found something disturbing in the hotel's 1924 archives. A record of seances held in room 14. The medium, a woman named Evelyn March, believed mirrors were doorways for forgotten spirits. She wrote in her notes, some reflections are more real than we are. They wait, patient as stars. If summoned, they come, not as ghosts, as guests. The last seance was performed on February 19th, exactly 89 years before Liana vanished. And Evelyn's last words? I have seen my own eyes betray me. The final interview. Rowan agreed to one last televised interview, live, unedited, uncut. The host asked her, what do you think happened to Liana? Rowan didn't blink. She smiled, slow and wide, and whispered. She didn't disappear. She exchanged places. The camera glitched, just for a second. But in that second, viewers saw two Rowans, one smiling on the left, one staring blankly on the right, and only one blinked. What happens next? How do you fight something that already knows how to be you? What happens when every doubt, every second guess, every what if isn't just in your head, but in your reflection? And when the reflection finally decides to walk through, will you still be strong enough to stop it? Or will you welcome the silence? A mirror doesn't lie, but it also doesn't tell the whole truth. That's what Dr. Everly said before she vanished. Now her lab was empty, her notes scattered, and one message was etched into her office mirror, written backwards in permanent marker. I saw myself smile, but I wasn't smiling. The two Rowan security footage from the interview studio showed something impossible. Rowan left the building alone. Door opened, door closed. But the reflection in the glass lingered, seconds longer than it should have. And as the real Rowan walked past the next mirror, her reflection looked at the camera, smiled, then winked. The flickering people sightings began to spread. In cafes, libraries, airports, people frozen mid action, flickering like bad reception. Some claimed their friends stared too long into windows. Some said their loved ones seemed copied. One woman said her husband walked into a mirror by accident, only to bounce back with different shoes. She confronted him. He replied, "You're not supposed to notice." The elevator file. Rowan received an anonymous flash drive. It contained elevator footage labeled Liana Exit Attempt 2. There she was, Liana, stepping out into the hallway, dragging something. A mirror. She looked around, whispered something the audio didn't catch, then pressed the elevator button. But as the doors opened, she was already inside, standing there, smiling. One, Liana, stepped forward, the other stayed. Then the footage glitched and the hallway went dark. The train station incident. A girl vanished on a subway platform. Witnesses claimed she was practicing dance moves, facing the wall's mirror tiles. Then she twirled and was gone. Her backpack remained. The only footage available showed her reflection, stepping toward the camera, not away. Authorities dismissed it as a technical fault, but the graffiti scrawled on the wall beside the mirror said, "I stepped out when no one was watching." To Everly's last note. Rowan found a notebook in Everly's apartment. Torn, rain damaged, but legible. The final pages read, "Every version of us we've ever imagined exists. Mirrors don't create them, they contain them. Each mirror is a thin wall between choices made and those not made. Regret feeds them, doubt invites them, attention gives them shape. The more we look, the stronger they become." The impossible photograph. A fan of Rowan's story sent her a photo. It was taken in 2005, a class field trip to a science museum. But in the background, behind the glass, was a blurry image of Rowan, adult Rowan. Same jacket she wore in the interview, same scar on her hand, but she hadn't even been in that city until 2011, and she had no memory of the trip until she had a dream that night. Child, tugging her hand, asking, "Did I grow up to be you?" The mirror reversal police in New York investigated a case where every mirror in a single apartment flipped simultaneously, not shattered, just turned, facing the wall. The tenant, an artist, was never found, but his final Instagram post read, "My reflection just asked me to close my eyes. When I opened them, it was painting instead of me." The elevator again. Rowan returned to the hotel. She took the elevator to the 14th floor, pressed 415. The lights flickered, and for a split second, the control panel mirrored itself. Left became right. Numbers reversed. She blinked, stepped out, and there was another Rowan facing her, older, eyes tired, silent. She held out a key. Whispered, "I came back to warn you. We traded places once, but I want my life back." Then the doors closed, and Rowan was alone, holding a room key marked 4 X. What happens next? When reflections remember the life you've forgotten. When the mirror begins showing not who you are, but who you were meant to become. Do you resist or do you surrender? And if you do trade places, will anyone ever know the difference? You don't step into the mirror, you step through what you left behind. Rowan stood alone in room 415X, not the room she remembered, not the room from police reports or documentaries. This version of the room was colder, quieter, and everything inside was slightly reversed. The curtains opened to brick. The clock ticked backward. The mirror, it wasn't on the wall, it was the door. Room 415X, a copy of regret. This room didn't exist on any blueprint, not officially, but Liana had described it in her journal before disappearing. She called it the Echo Room. You walk in and feel everything you didn't say, didn't choose, didn't become. The room reflects it all. But it won't let you leave unless you accept what you see. Rowan touched the door. The mirror rippled. The flickering journal. Inside the room was a journal, leather bound, blank pages until you turned them. Each page filled in a moment after flipping, not with ink, with reflections. A girl standing under a streetlight. But her reflection beneath the puddle was smiling. A mother brushing her daughter's hair. But the mirror beside her showed her holding a knife. An empty train seat. But in the reflection, someone was sitting there. The journal closed itself. Rowan's name was now on the cover. The girl on the ceiling returns midnight. Rowan opened her eyes. The room was dark, and above her on the ceiling was a girl, crawling slowly, hair dangling, silent. She turned her head unnaturally. Her mouth didn't move, but Rowan heard the voice. You wanted to be seen. Mirrors only give what you want. Rowan asked, Who are you? The girl paused, then whispered, I'm who you pretended not to become. The mirror ritual repeats. Rowan began piecing it together. The hotel had become a ritual site, but not one that summoned spirits. It summoned versions. For decades, the building attracted those who carried regret like luggage. Each guest was unknowingly performing the ritual. A moment of intense self doubt, an unanswered knock, a mirror presents in the room, and a decision left undecided. The moment those four conditions aligned, the door opened, and the reflection chose. The voices from the sink, Rowan turned the faucet. Only cold water came. But beneath the flow, voices whispered. Not one, dozens, hundreds. She leaned closer. We are the other choices. You were almost us. Let us remember through you. You blinked first, then silence. Only Rowan's breathing remained. Or so she thought, because her reflection wasn't breathing. The return of the lost. Across the city, people began reporting strange phenomena. Children describing lives they never lived. People waking up speaking languages they never learned. Pets growling at mirrors, refusing to enter rooms with reflections, and a man at a bus stop, missing for 10 years, reappeared. Same age, same clothes. He looked around, confused, and said, It's not over. They followed me out. The final tape. A security guard from the hotel mailed Rowan an unmarked VHS. It was grainy. No timestamp. It showed a corridor. Room 415's door slightly ajar. A figure approached. Rowan herself, but older, tired, weary. She entered the room, then silence. 5 minutes later, two Rowans emerged. One walked left, one right, but only one cast a reflection. Room 415X vanishes. The next morning, Rowan returned to the hotel. Room 415X gone. Just a brick wall behind the mirror. She asked the front desk. They looked confused. There is no room for Funface X. There never was. So, what happened to Liana? Was she taken, trapped, or did she choose to stay? Did she see a version of herself in the mirror? One who smiled without anxiety, danced without fear, and simply let go. And if that's true, then what returned from that mirror? What's smiling in the videos? What's blinking out of sync? And who else is now walking among us? Wearing your face, what happens next? You've seen your reflection every day of your life, but how closely have you watched? Not just what's in the mirror, but what's watching you back. If one day your reflection blinks first, run. Rowan stopped sleeping. Not because of fear, but because her dreams started waking up before she did. The unspoken rule. There's a rule no one writes down. If your reflection ever moves before you do, don't turn your back. For most, it's just superstition, a creepy internet myth. But Rowan now lived in a world where myths had mirrors, and behind those mirrors, something was watching. No, waiting. The room in the photograph. Rowan returned to the photo that changed everything. The one sent by a stranger. The classroom trip from 2005. She zoomed in again. There she was, herself, but older, wearing the jacket she didn't own until 23. And behind her, almost out of frame, was a number. On a door, 4 from Phoenix, but not a hotel. It was a school science lab. She looked up the address. It burned down in 2006. The fire had no known cause. But the last student to exit said the mirrors cracked before the flame started. The stairwell with no end. In the hotel, Rowan took the emergency stairs instead of the elevator. She descended. One floor, two, three, 10, 20. No exit signs, no landings, just the stairs. She turned back and found herself. But she was climbing upward. Same face, same clothes, except the other, Rowan whispered. Go back, or you'll forget which one is you. The man without a shadow. In a diner downtown, a man sat across from Rowan. He ordered nothing, drank nothing. He only said one thing. Mirrors are old, but shadows are older. Reflections lie, shadows tell the truth. Rowan leaned in. What truth? He stood. That we were never alone, and we were never first. She looked down. The man had no shadow, and neither did she. The tape recorder. Rowan found a tape recorder in her apartment, not hers. On it, a recording played automatically. Her voice. If you're hearing this, I already crossed. Or maybe you did. Either way, one of us isn't coming back. Then a pause, then laughter, two different laughs. One hers, one wrong to the other forgotten faces. Rowan's friends stopped recognizing her. Her mother cried during a call and said, I raised you, I know your eyes. That's not you. At first, Rowan dismissed it until she noticed the family photos changing. She had no face in them, just a blur, just a smudge of light, like a mirror remembering someone who'd stepped away too long. Liana's return a week later, a girl walked into a coffee shop, hair soaked from the rain, clothes decades old. She walked straight to Rowan, smiled. I found a way back, but I brought something with me. Rowan whispered. Liana? She nodded, then reached into her bag and pulled out a mirror, not to show herself, but to show what followed. In the reflection was a room full of watching eyes. The final warning. Rowan recorded her own video. She uploaded it anonymously. No name, no title, just one message. If your reflection ever hesitates, ask why. If it smiles before you do, ask who. And if you hear a knock, don't answer. The world shifts. Across forums and cities, strange events multiplied. Identical strangers claiming the same name and birthday, reverse rooms captured on home security, mirrors vanishing from apartments overnight, people reporting themselves missing. Before they actually disappeared, Rowan's story was becoming everyone's story. Because the reflection wasn't limited to her, it was spreading, choosing, replacing. And now, you, yes, you, the one reading this. When was the last time you looked in the mirror? Did your reflection match your blink? Are you sure your face smiled because you told it to? Or did it smile because it knows what's coming next? What happens now? This isn't the end because mirrors don't end. They wait, they remember, they practice being you until it's their turn. Some people fear monsters under the bed, but the real terror is when the monster wears your smile from inside the mirror, the beginning of the end. Rowan couldn't remember the last time she felt like herself. Memories began slipping. The scent of her favorite candle? Gone. The melody of her childhood lullaby? Forgotten. Her handwriting, now crooked and unfamiliar. She opened her diary and saw a final entry. I'm still here, but she's writing this. The mirror cracks. At precisely 3 a.m., Rowan entered her apartment bathroom. Same mirror, same face, but tonight the mirror had a crack, a hairline fracture from corner to corner. She didn't remember it cracking. And when she raised her hand to touch it, her reflection didn't follow. It stared back, expressionless, then smiled. Rowan whispered, You're not me. The reflection replied with her voice, Aren't I? There is emergency broadcast. A strange signal aired across late night screens and radios. An emergency tone, then a voice. We are receiving multiple reports of identity disturbances. Please stay indoors. Avoid reflective surfaces. Do not engage with anyone who mimics you. They are not you. You have been warned. Then static, then silence, then laughter. Liana's final revelation. Liana contacted Rowan one last time. She left a voicemail. The mirror doesn't show you what you are, it shows you what you could have been and hates you for wasting it. I made a deal with mine. I thought I'd win. But in the mirror's world, you never win. You only disappear slower. Then her voice faded and was replaced by another, Rowan's voice, but distorted. She's gone now. I just wanted to say thank you for letting me in. The global event, the phenomenon was no longer local. In Tokyo, a girl vanished mid TikTok recording. Only her reflection stayed in the video. In Berlin, every mirror in a hospital turned black for 2 minutes. Patients in ICU all woke up, but with different personalities. In New York, subway mirrors began showing passengers who hadn't yet boarded with timestamps from the future. And everywhere, people were reporting the same nightmare. I saw myself sleeping, and then I walked away, with my face still on the pillow. The choice. Rowan knew what had to be done. She went back to the hotel. Room 4 was sealed, but room 415X was waiting. No key, no knob, only a mirror in place of a door. She took a breath, stepped forward, and said, If I can't stop you, I'll replace you. The mirror rippled, then swallowed her whole. Inside the mirror, it wasn't a room, it was a gallery of stolen lives, millions of reflections in suspended glass, some crying, some screaming, some blank, and all of them watching Rowan, waiting for her to decide who she truly was. One final test. A glass table appeared. On it, two mirrors. One showed her past, one showed her worst fear. She had to choose one to step through, and whatever she chose, she'd become. Rowan's last move. She closed her eyes, breathed deeply, and did something the mirror didn't expect. She turned away from both. I don't want to be what I was. I don't want to be what I fear. I want to be something you can't reflect, someone who chooses without you. The gallery cracked, the glass faces shattered, and suddenly Rowan was standing in her apartment. Or was she? The room looked the same. Same walls, same lights, same smells, but no mirrors. Anywhere. She looked in her phone camera. No reflection. She reached for a pen to write something down. But the ink ran backwards, and then came the knock at the door. Once, twice, then silence. She opened it. And standing there was another Rowan, smiling, holding out a mirror, saying, Welcome home. Epilogue. What about you? You've read this far, you've seen the story unfold. But ask yourself, how often do you check your reflection? Do you ever feel like someone else is watching you through you? Have you ever walked past a mirror and thought, was that just a second too slow? If you feel off lately, maybe you're already changing, or maybe the mirror is just warming up. So tonight, before bed, cover the mirror, or at least don't look too long, because the face looking back might not wait for you next time. The end, or is it the beginning of yours?